My name is Lekha Devta. I co-host this event with Nee Lee. And this has been one crazy year. Who knew that going into 2020, the whole world would shut down? You know, what it did to our businesses, you know, our teams, our tenants, kids, crazy. But the coming months will be crucial for all of us. And there's going to be lots of opportunities that present itself. So just make sure that you're well positioned in your business to take those on. And the best way to do that is to network in groups like this, you know, talk to the people that are doing bigger, greater things than you, because then you can only grow. So I am so excited for you guys to hear from our super diverse speaker lineup. I can't wait for all of you to just get to know them because they are incredible people. They each do something so vastly different. And so we're just going to spend the first hour interviewing them. You know, it's super open conversation. If you have questions, put it in the chat box. We will have a Q&A round at the very end, so we can ask them all of your specific questions. Also, there will be networking in breakout rooms after the speaker session. Stay for that because then you get to network with, you know, 4 or 5 people in a more intimate setting. So that's also pretty cool. I want to bring my co-host on today, Nee, who hasn't spoken at any of our past virtual events. And today I'm going to just throw him in the spotlight and say, Nee, introduce yourself because
Dude, I just tell people there's one coordinator. And I'm like, look, there's 30 of me.
What I do.
All right, Nee.
Hey, thanks, Lekha. I'm not prepared to speak. Well, my name is Nate. If you guys were here since the beginning of these meetups, we talked a lot more because we were in person. Things have definitely changed a lot since Zoom and COVID days. But quick introduction, you know, my name is Nee. I've been an investor for 5 or 6 years. We actually got started at about the same time Lekha did. She and I started flipping at the same time. That was our background. And then now I'm primarily more of a burr and out-of-state investor, also a lender by day, and that's been my passion. So I love to deal with any kind of financing techniques and creative finance. That's what I specialize in. So if you guys have any questions or want to strategize about that, let me know.
Awesome, Nee. Thank you. Can you also make Tarl the co-host? Then he can help us. Okay, so a little bit about me. This has really, you know, I'm just really fortunate to say that this has been my best year in business yet. I finished my first edition, my first land subdivision. It's been a lot of hard work. You know, things don't come easy. And we were able to seamlessly go from in-person meetings to virtual meetups, you know, and there's a lot of pivoting in my business too. I went from being an active flipper to starting to focus on a rental portfolio because I was so uncertain of what the market was going to do. But then we saw where in my market, there's no inventory at all. And I quickly started to buy flips again. So, you know, it was just like seeing where the market was going and then making decisions as I went. So that's me. Happy to answer any questions offline. So feel free to send me an email or reach out to me. The other thing that happened this year is I discovered LinkedIn. And if you're not on LinkedIn, you're really missing out because I've met some super cool people. 2 of my speakers I did not know before I came into this, Julie Hawley and Ellis Hammond. And I discovered both of them on LinkedIn and oh my God, they're such big inspirations. So I highly encourage you guys to get on LinkedIn and start networking there because it just opens up. Like for me, I was in my bubble of fix and flip. And now I'm in this network of people doing crazy things like self-storage and assisted living and massive commercial real estate deals. So I'm excited for what's to come. And yeah, so go network. Okay, one little housekeeping thing is please mute yourself so that you can hear the speakers. But that's it. And then just stay till the end because we have lots of fun things happening and lots of cool people joining. So stay till the end. Let's get started, you guys. I can't wait to introduce my speakers to you. I am not going to be reading out their bios because you can find that online. I would much rather the speakers tell us exciting, interesting things about themselves. Okay, so let's get started. All right, first up, I want to ask Steve Rosenberg. Steve, hello. Steve is amazing. Steve and I met about 2 years ago at one of Tarl's events. Thank you, Tarl, because Steve is just like, I love being around Steve because he always makes me smile. You've also been such a good mentor and a friend. So Steve, can you introduce yourself? Tell us what makes you so cool.
Well, I think I proudly can say that I am Tarl's best friend. And so that, first of all, I think puts me way above anybody else. Yeah, it's been great knowing you, Lika, as well as everybody else. I mean, Tarl has been a huge inspiration for me since we've met each other. And because of him, I've met a lot of people as well. You know, my background's probably a little different than most. You know, I'm an airline pilot, still am an airline pilot. And like everyone else, bought some real estate, made some mistakes, standard story like everyone. But I turned that into creating a management company because of me messing up so badly that nobody wanted to manage my properties and I couldn't sell them during 2008, 2009. So we created a management company. We eventually built it up to about 1,000 properties in 3 different metropolitan cities. With about 60% of our staff in Mexico. So we learned a lot about outsourcing and virtual assistants and all that. Eventually sold that business. And now I'm kind of in the second phase, I guess you can say. I've never, ever been good with a hammer or doing that kind of stuff. So I always realized that my biggest challenge and the reason that I failed so badly was because I never really had any goals and I didn't really understand strategies and tactics. And the more I started talking to people, I realized that a lot of people have the same challenges. They were like me, they buy a bunch of properties, but they don't know why. So I've really started focusing on trying to help people kind of understand why they're buying stuff and really understand kind of the mental aspect of real estate. Cause you know, everybody can learn to buy the property, but how you get it over the next 20, 30 years is just something that I think is, you know, I wish somebody would have shown that to me and I probably would have illustrious hair like Tarl and Nate, but I don't. So, but anyways, yeah, so I do a lot of stuff. I help a lot of people. And I do it more from a business perspective than just kind of price per square foot and that kind of stuff. So I own quite a bit of stuff. I'm in some partnerships. I'm kind of looking at doing some bigger deals as I grow, less hands-on, more hands-off. But I still am very active in real estate doing stuff.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Awesome. Liz, I want to bring you on next. Liz Faircloth has done some great things for women in real estate. You even published a book that I was, you know, so proud to be a part of this year. Tell us a little bit about what you did, Liz.
Sure. About the book or just from that perspective?
About Invest Her and the book.
Okay, awesome. So I'm one of the, so hi everyone, nice to be with everyone. I think I'm one of the only ones on the East Coast. So representing the East Coast here in lovely Pennsylvania. But, and I was a Jersey girl. So I'm always a Jersey girl, but I moved about 2 years ago. Yeah, in a nutshell, I'm a co-founder of the Real Estate Investor community. Myself and a good friend at the time and business partner, Andressa, started our community about 2 years ago. And just because we Googled and couldn't find a community like what we're creating. And we have a Facebook community and we have meetups across the country, about 30 meetups of women just supporting each other and helping each other along the way. I've been investing for about 15 years, all different types of investing. Mostly our focus is multifamily, large multifamily at this point in 4 different states. We have apartment buildings where we're running and kind of acquiring. But yeah, my passion is being part and growing our community of women. Ashley Wilson, who authored the book, The Only Woman in the Room, was one of our meetup leaders and a friend and a colleague. And we said, hey, maybe we can publish this thing, for you and with you because we had such shared alignment. So yeah, it kind of, Leica is one of our contributors and her story is wonderful, but it basically has 20 women along the way and talks about their stories. And it's not just inspiration, but it's also kind of like, you know, step by step, and whether it's self-storage or multifamily or women who had nothing. I met with one of the contributors today, and I didn't even know the depths of her story. So it's meant to be inspirational, but also give women some helpful kind of tips along the way. So, but yeah, I have a real passion for this. And in terms of real estate investing, also still very active. We just bought our largest asset to date this year. So
awesome. We're going to get to that. I want to hear about that. So next, I want to bring up Tarl Yarber. Tarl is someone I have a ton of respect for. We were both investing in real estate, but I actually, you know, we became friends first. And Tarl and my husband Vijay and Grace and I were all really good friends. And it's just been amazing to see their journey and to be part of their journey. Now, what you guys probably don't know is Tal hosts one of the largest meetups in the PNW. And not just that, like he promotes this mindset that I'm all about, collaboration. He just encourages people to give. And no, not many people do that, to just have an open mindset. So I'm really, he's basically made this whole Seattle community a much closer, close-knit like family. And that's incredible for someone on his platform to be able to do. If you don't follow his events, I highly recommend following Fixated on Real Estate. Nate, if you could put a link to Fixated in the chat box, I want everybody to follow because he still does his virtual webinars every week, and he brings some incredible speakers, and I learn a lot of information from them. So Tarl, introduce yourself. Tell us why you are who you are.
Well, it's just funny you asked Nate to do something technical because he didn't even post a link. He doesn't know how to do that. So he's the wrong person. Anyways, it's, I think, like, he's very good at acquisitions, very horrible at
Hey, he did it. Give him credit.
I figured it out. Yeah, that website sucks, by the way. We're going to re-update that. But anyways, that's point. No, like, I guess since you brought up the meetup stuff and the event stuff, in reality for us, we started that on a whim just because I don't really like real estate very much. And I spend a lot of my career doing real estate, right? And we flipped a ton of houses. Definitely, I think we're approaching 670 something or something like that. But like, we've done a lot. And the challenge though is that I hated it most of the time. I was only doing it for money. And I don't know if everybody else got started in real estate because they love, everything about real estate, or if they want to make money. Like for me, it was money. That was it. And so I got stuck in that, and I was willing to like shut the entire business down and do something else. And then a buddy of mine gave me the idea that maybe we should do some sort of like event or some sort of meetup. And I started the meetup because I wanted to be around other like-minded people. And we did our first one, we had 110 people there. And then the second one, we had 220 people there. And it just kept going. And it kept me in the business because I got to be around people like you guys and share information and not be alone in my little office dungeon, like, working on properties and stuff. And that really changed everything in my perspective in real estate, that there's really there is competition, but it's actually could be a lot of fun working with other investors and helping each other with their businesses and stuff. But that said, I guess if I had to give some advice on stuff, I don't know if this is like the time just to talk about ourselves or more
do it.
Like I think 2020's given a lot of perspective, at least for me and my family and stuff, as far as like more so figuring out what we want in our businesses, our drive, like what we want to do continuing going forward in our business. And if the direction we've been going is the right direction, we should continue to go. And it's given us a chance to kind of look at other opportunities to pivot to different things and take the gas off the pedal, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If you went to talk to us earlier in February, and we actually had a team retreat in February, I had a whole like, this is the direction we're going. We're going to go do this, right? We're going to kill it. Da, 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 da. And then by March, I'm drinking and pissed off at the world because I couldn't do that business plan. I'm happy. I'm not happy at all with what's happening in the world, but for our business, I'm kind of happy we didn't go down that direction that we originally planned, and it gave us the perspective to make some changes. So, and right now we're still making those changes. We're still trying to figure out what we really want to do as a business going forward. But it's been very nice. And if I can give anybody advice, it's like, if you haven't done that yet, definitely know where you're headed in your business and where you really want it to go and have that vivid vision. It makes life a lot easier. It makes it easier for your team as well if you actually know where you're headed. And I spent a lot of years only knowing what we're doing for the next 4 months, which was flipping all the houses that we have. And that's the only thing I could ever tell you. And we had no vision outside of that for a long time. But it's very important in this business to know where you're going with it. So
Yeah, that's great advice, Tarl. Okay, can't wait to ask you more questions. Cara, hi. This girl
Hi.
is a social media sensation. She has one of the prettiest Instagram pages that I have found. So thank you for all the amazing content you put out. You have accomplished so much in your short time in real estate, and you came from retail just like me. So tell us about, how your journey has evolved.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I am a completely self-taught investor. I started investing in the stock market in 2009, and I started investing in real estate in 2016. And I just needed a creative outlet. And like I said, I was in retail at the time, and that creative outlet for me was basically investing in real estate and making a house something beautiful. So it was really more about the quality, not necessarily the quantity. And I, to this day, walk into a house that I'm going to flip, and I just see so much potential. And that's where I have so much fun with the design. And I just think at any price point, I want my houses to feel custom, unique, and usually they're not on the market for very long because they're special. So I just love what I'm doing. This year has been a great year in business, a hard year personally. So it's been really kind of diving into the mindset and why I'm doing what I'm doing, figuring out, like Tarl said, what are your goals? I've been working with Steve as kind of just holding me accountable for things. I needed that accountability piece, and bringing people on to do what I don't like to do. As we all know, our time is so valuable. And when I realized I was getting stuck doing something that is not creative, and that's not the best use of my time. So I think we're ending 2020 really, really strong, getting people in place. And I'm just really happy with the direction of the business. It's actually turned into a really big design business. So as much as I love doing fix and flips, and I have rental properties as well, the design business took off this year huge. I mean, more than I could expect. And so we're very busy with client projects, everything from kitchen remodel to bathroom remodel to full house client projects for clients that aren't even in the state. So I have clients I've never even met before, and met them through Instagram, but I'm basically leading the construction on their full house remodel. So it's just kind of been a crazy year in a number of ways, but you have to start somewhere. So
that's awesome. And I mean, this just goes to show that social media is powerful.
yeah, it is.
Awesome. Thank you, Cara. So next, I want to introduce you guys to Shreyas. Shreyas and I met through a mutual friend back in 2017. He was in tech, and he had this vision of creating a lending company for investors that was revolutionary. And at the same time, it just so happened that I was looking for a lending partner that would just make my borrowing experience a lot easier. And I hadn't found that as yet. If they were great lending partners, they were super expensive. If they were not as expensive, they just like made my life hell. So I was like, where can I find someone that can marry the two and make it just easy for me? And so Shreyas did that. Shreyas has since co-founded Certain Lending with his partner, Charles, and they have literally taken something and just made it so much easier to everybody that borrows from them, just inventing new systems, new processes, and also coming up with really creative ways of financing different deals that are not as straightforward. Like kudos to him and Nee and their team, because they just do it so efficiently and flawlessly. Now, this is interesting because this was all put to the test this year due to COVID. And we will get to that in a bit, Shreyas. I'm going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
But you are now a co-founder and CTO. So what's the one interesting thing that you've learned about yourself through this experience of founding a company?
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember the first phone call we had and then flying up to Seattle and meeting you for coffee. And I think like a lot of people's experience meeting you, I kind of felt like you were a lifelong friend after just a couple of times hanging out. I don't think Charles and I even would have started the business actually if you hadn't said like, yeah, this is something you should do. And as like I said, my background is maybe a little bit different from some of the other people here. It's in software engineering and product management. So I was at Microsoft after college and then at a data analytics company called Palantir Technologies, which actually just went public a month ago, and now on to Certain Lending. So if anyone has questions about, software or raising equity capital for technology ventures, like happy to chat about stuff like that. 2020 was a really, interesting, challenging year. Reflecting on what got us through it, I think one thing is just like embracing reality quickly. Like you could, I think within a few days of whatever it was, March 12th or March 17th, we were sort of like, okay, this is what things look like. And we're going to have to plan for the long haul. So like, build out a home office, just like prepare for life might be like this for a while. I think there was a silver lining for us too, of like, crisis kind of helps you figure out what your priorities actually are. I think there were, when you're a company trying to do a lot, there's like 50 or 1,000 things you could be doing. And then when there's a crisis here, it's like, actually there's 3 things we should be doing. And, you might as well take advantage of that, mindset while you have it and just like ruthlessly figure out, what is it that I need to be doing or we need to be doing. And I really hope we can maintain that mindset into 2021, as we come out of this, because we had an insanely productive year as a result, because we just like, it just became apparent. It was like ludicrous to have some of the conversations we were having in February, to have them in late March. You're like, what are we even talking about? So, just trying to hold on to that for as long as possible.
Thank you, Shreyas. That is so insightful. And we'll come back to that because I want to dig into it a little bit more. So next up, I have Ellis Hammond. Ellis is out of the San Diego area and started investing in 2017. I connected, like I said, with Ellis on LinkedIn and heard him on a few different podcasts. And it was just inspiring to me, all the things that he was doing. He genuinely comes from a place of, I want to help the community and give back. So really awesome to see. And he also hosts a super popular podcast called the Kingdom REI podcast. So go check it out. And Ellis, feel free to drop a link when you're done. So yeah, if you could, introduce yourself and tell us how you got into real estate.
Thanks. Like I'm actually posting on LinkedIn right now. Like I love this community. Definitely get on LinkedIn if you're not creating content there. I would love to connect with you as well. Thanks. I'm so pumped to be here. I really say this, and I feel like I'm the least qualified person on this panel. And the reason I say that though is actually, I hope it's encouragement to so many. I was a full-time Christian pastor 12 months ago. We started investing in real estate while we were in full-time vocational ministry. And then we launched really officially in full-time this year. And so if we can do it, and if your vision and goal is to really build a real estate business, then I definitely think it's possible. So much of that has come from the power of networking and relationships. I was a full-time missionary and my best friends were 18 and 19-year-old kids, because that's who I was spending most of my time with. And we were able to do our first syndication deal during that time because of LinkedIn. Like we had built it, and I didn't know where else to go and so I went online to just begin to meet people. And that's how we got started in this business. And so now we founded a community called Kingdom REI, which is a mastermind for faith-based real estate operators and investors. I see a bunch of our tribe here today, so that's exciting to see. What's up, Andy and Bethany and a couple of different folks. So excited to be here. We also have a syndication firm that we focus on buying multifamily apartments out of Tucson and Albuquerque, New Mexico is where we're focused at right now, and trying to get some more deals over the finish line in 2021. So excited to talk about this year. We've learned a ton. A lot of it's just going to come down to community, who you know, and really Tarl's spending his time in Maui. I'm spending mine on LinkedIn. So, and most of that is just because I see that, if we want to really grow and get past this whole COVID thing, it really comes to relationships. So kudos for putting this on. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to just connect with more people today.
Thank you, Ellis. Thank you. Next up, we have Sean Cortona. Sean has actually been on this virtual meetup situation a couple of times before, and every single time people have reached out to me and said, I love Sean's energy. So no pressure, Sean. You got to just bring it every time. But Sean is so cool that he switched from residential investing to commercial investing and now invests in shopping centers. And he does it so effortlessly. He is one of the most creative deal finders and strategists. And I've been in the car while he's talking to sellers, trying to make them sell him his home, their home, or a shopping center. But he just does it amazingly effortlessly. And everybody also thinks that he's, their best friend and that, they have to make it work with him. So Sean's amazing. Sean, what prompted you to make that switch, and how challenging was that learning curve? I'm in that same situation now. So it's a very steep learning curve.
I feel like I have to throw so many disclosures and disclaimers in that intro. You are a riot and you crack me up and you're so sweet all at the same time. Let's see. I mean, I guess 10 seconds of backstory. I worked in corporate America, also at Microsoft for many years, and just found that, I was more interested in something entrepreneurial. I got excited about real estate investing, but kind of like Tarl talked about, it's like, I don't really love remodeling kitchens and houses and adult babysitting all the contractors. And I found myself, I guess it was about 2015, with about 15 rehabs going simultaneously in Seattle, and my life was a hot mess. I had, projects falling behind and staff that couldn't keep up. And at the same time I was getting married. And so we kind of took a step back and said, like, what do we want our life to look like? Did a little bit of like lifestyle design discovery. And I wanted less complexity, like less balls juggling in the air. And so my thought process on that was to do fewer, bigger deals that were higher quality. And so when we're making some of these decisions or move, they have an extra comma and more zeros behind them. And I got into shopping centers kind of by happenstance. It was a little bit out of vogue. Everyone loves apartments because, they're great and they're steady. But, some of the prices that I was seeing deals trade at, just I had a hard time making sense of. And so I did a little bit of a contrarian move, focus on a different asset class, which, commercial has its own learning curve, retail does too. But ultimately I found, kind of a niche where, we could do 1 or 2 deals a year, have a really good quality of life, get really good tax advantages, and dramatically reduce the amount of time that I was spending managing teams and contractors and people. But also get like friends and families and partners who are investing with me on residential into stuff that made them even more money. So it felt like, just gains on all these different fronts, minus all the brain damage. Cause I think, if I pick up a hammer, it's ugly, and I'm like not an engineer by trade. And so all these things definitely had a learning curve. But as I look back and kind of reflect on, how you become a success like overnight, over a decade, there was so many lessons learned the hard way. And I think, a large degree of probably so many people's success on a panel like this comes from coaches and mentors and people who, kind of helped us by leading the way. And that's very much been the case for me. So, today I'm kind of fascinated with a guy named Dan Sullivan right now. He runs a program called Strategic Coach. And one of the principles is who, not how. And that's really resonated with me lately. And I find, I'm doing a lot more of the stuff that I love and enjoy. It's fascinating and it's exciting. And if it's not, I'm trying to get that off my plate onto someone who does find that fascinating and exciting. And so, my time is predominantly spent now raising capital with awesome, successful people. And then, keeping the deal flow machine coming in. And, kind of my exciting ambition for 2021, when like the world is going to shit, I see an opportunity to buy stuff at, maybe a deeper discount than we've seen in the last decade in an asset class that's kind of out of style, but on some of the most fundamentally sound real estate that exists when you think about, main locations for some retail shopping centers that are going through some big challenges. So Man, I threw a lot of stuff at you guys, but that's been some of the journey. So happy to answer, any questions about that journey in corporate and flipping and rentals and portfolio, because that's what I think about, all day, every day now.
Yeah, and I would highly encourage taking him up on that because he is such a ninja. Thank you for being here, Sean. So last but definitely not the least, I have my lovely Julie Hawley. Julie is literally a breath of fresh air. She is host of the Ask Me How I Know podcast. And, I've been on a lot of podcasts this year, and the way Julie was able to connect with me and the way she connects with her guests, because I've heard a few of her other podcasts, is just at a different level. Like, she's able to go really deep, and it's because of how transparent and how just the right questions that she asks. So if you haven't heard her podcast yet, Julie, if you can drop a link to it, that would be awesome, because that is a phenomenal podcast.
Can I just ask Nate to drop a link, please? No, okay.
Oh, Nate.
I believe in you.
Thank you for believing in me. I got you.
I got you too, Nate. Okay, so Julie, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Leica. Thank you. You are so gracious and kind and so spirited and full of life. I just love being around your effervescent. Like, it's just so contagious and awesome, which is why everybody's here. We're just super excited. So I'm Julie Hawley. I have had parallel careers, and I'm definitely lower than you, Alice, on the whole totem pole here. And I am not ashamed of that at all. I embrace where I'm at in my journey. I did not come from corporate America. I do not have a tech background. So I feel very underqualified just by those two things. But I've had parallel careers between being a classroom teacher with little elementary school students and real estate investing. I came from residential, and I was raised in residential real estate, and they thought that commercial real estate was like, well, just stay away from commercial real estate. And so my husband and I had this mission and vision that we would have a real estate portfolio, and it'd be single family. It just was this one vision to serve people who might be caught in the margins of life that needed somebody to believe in them. So it was very philanthropical. It was very well intentioned. And that's all good, but your intentions need to be anchored down in something. And we decided, like everybody else, right, it's not scalable. And we did the pivot, right? That's the word of this year, pivot. So we pivoted, and I found commercial real estate to be absolutely amazing. And we jumped into passive investing. And this is a year to go to active investing. And 2020 threw a lot of curveballs to all of us. And those curveballs were actually the very best thing. And I think a lot of people can echo that this has been a challenging year, but it's also been an exciting year ripe with opportunities for those of us who kept control of our mindset and didn't get derailed by the news and media. And so I just stuck to the vision, the dream, the goal, the passion, and I'm locked in. So I'm going to throw a little tangent in here. I moved from California to the Canadian border in North Idaho. So I am landlocked, and I'm thinking, wait a second, how am I going to accomplish this dream and vision that I have and that I can see? And how am I going to connect with people now that everything is shut down? And that's when I launched my podcast, Ask Me How I Know. And it has been a huge blessing and a huge gift. It's been a steep learning curve, but like so many others have said, just like being able to network and to get to know other people, this is collaboration, this is teamwork, and that's what I love. People have heard me say this before, everybody wins. I feel like Oprah, like you can win and you can win and you can win. And when like commercial real estate, when real estate investing is done well, everybody comes out successful and everybody comes out ahead. So I absolutely adore that. I love that. And what I'm looking forward to in 2021 is all the relationships that I have in place and, capital that's ready that's ready for 2021 when we're going to need that. And residents are going to need people to come in there and to be able to buy up properties, whether it be retail or whether it be multifamily, whatever it is, we're going to have some hurting people and we're going to need capital in place to take action. And that's a great way to serve.
Love it, Julie. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And oh my gosh, everything you say just resonates with me. And I want to dig deeper into your business and what you're doing. So come back to that. Okay, next round of questions. But before we go there, I see this happening in the chat box already. Feel free to drop a link to wherever you want people to connect with you, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or just your email or a website, whatever it is, just drop a link there. And then if you see the 3 little dots in your chat box, you can go there and say save at the very end of the event, and it'll save everybody's information. So you don't have to connect with people now, but you can connect with people right after we're done with this event. And some really cool people. I know I can't have 90 speakers, but there's 90 awesome people here. So please connect. Okay, so for our next round of questions, I want to get started with Shreyas. So Shreyas, 2-part question. Tell us a little bit more about what happened with certain lending this year and how you and the team were really able to pull through that. And just, what is your vision going into 2021?
Yeah. Okay. So what happened? So for us and many other mortgage companies, frankly, a lot of other industries were harder hit than real estate, but this was sufficiently challenging for us. We basically are, all of the uncertainty in the market created like a challenge for us to, like no one knew, what was going to happen in terms of borrowers making payments on residential, on investment properties of any sort. And so with all of this uncertainty from the pandemic, there was just a lot of money on the sidelines that says we don't actually know what we're going to do. And we're going to just wait. We're going to wait this out for who knows how long. For us as a market facing company, because we, support real estate investors, this was, just hugely difficult. And I think that part of how we got through it was we actually just kind of networked our butts off at that time. We had an ecosystem of financial partners who kind of support us. And we used that as an opportunity to say, if you thought, what the network that you had was strong, go out and make it 100 times stronger. And that, sometimes just that necessity creates the ability to hit goals that you didn't think you could previously. And then I think the other thing that we were able to do, because we realized that it was going to be a bit of a quiet time, was that we said, well, why don't we actually use this as an opportunity to kind of invest in the core business? It's very rare. So usually if you're starting a software company, you build something and then you actually built the wrong thing and then you go deploy it, but then it's too late to change anything because now you have, people coming in every single day. We said, well, we have this team that we've now learned from a year of being in market. What if we just built everything that we thought we needed now that we actually have some real experience, actually got all that done and exited the year like a much more efficient company than we started it. So while we had to slow down the business over the summer, I think we're actually in better shape with a better trajectory at the end of the year. So I think that's a roundabout answer to 2020. I think for 2021, the thing we're trying to figure out is how to run a fully remote engineering team. And a fully remote team in general. I think a lot of companies are going through the same challenge. For us, it's everything from how do we make sure that people don't miscommunicate over kind of phone and video, which is really possible. And frankly, it happens a lot. And then also how do we adapt our hiring and our interviewing, which was previously extremely based on in-person interactions, and just kind of embracing that this is how it's going to work. It's actually going to improve our cost structure because we won't need to have as much real estate, kind of corporate real estate, and kind of try to turn it into an advantage for ourselves.
No, that's awesome. Can you also tell us, just one sentence, what does certain lending do for real estate investors?
Yeah. So again, my background is on the software engineering side. So I think about what we're building as like a data platform for mortgage products. But I think for the purposes of an investor, what we're trying to offer is like the most streamlined experience that you can use to get guaranteed financing. So the observation was that I think most investors would rather not think about financing as much as they do. They'd rather know that it was available on good terms and that they wouldn't spend, excessive hours on it. We think there's a lot that software can do to automate, everything from gathering information to assessing project feasibility, making closings more streamlined. And we're kind of setting out to build all of that in like a really real estate investor friendly company.
That is awesome. Thank you, Shreyas.
Yeah.
Thank you. Kara, so you went from doing your own flips to client projects because of how, your Instagram fame like just got so popular and people started reaching out to you. How did that all get affected this year?
So I've started doing design client projects almost 2 years ago, but the influx this year was insane. I mean, the amount of people who are stuck at home and realized I've wanted this kitchen remodel for how many years? Now I'm going to be at home for the next, who knows for how long. I want to get that done. We're doing home office projects as well. And so that just, I couldn't even believe how many requests I was getting. And so that was fantastic. But as far as the flipping aspect, that definitely kind of took a little, put it on the back burner essentially. Kind of earlier on, I had some projects under contract in February and I had investors back out of them right before closing because they were so unsure of the market and they didn't want to get stuck with, these were pretty big projects. And so that's the tricky part, if you have a partner and one partner wants to back out, that's tough. So that was a huge lesson. And so, take that for what it is, but that was a huge lesson for me. So I have the design business, but I think what was really important for me, one really great takeaway is the importance of having multiple streams of income. So if my flipping business slows down, I have my rental income that's still coming in on a monthly basis. That really was not affected in COVID for me. And then I also have the design business. So I think having 3 types of streams of income is really important. And it's something that I will always plan on having. If I can add more streams of income, I plan to do so. As busy as I was with the design business, I had a little bit more time to kind of focus on what can I do as far as tax strategies. So I met with my CPA more than I have in the years before. And I have a number of LLCs as well as S Corps, and it made more sense based on, the design business that is basically personal income tax. And so the way that I had to set up my flips and my rental portfolios, I had a chance to do that because I had less time on the flips. It gave me a little more time to kind of organize that. So, if things are slow for you, I think it's great to sit down with your CPA. Do you have everything in order? Is everything, are you buying under the right type of business? Maybe you shouldn't be buying under an LLC. So those kind of things, it's kind of good to get those in order. I also switched lending companies and just getting different pre-approval letters. So when I have a great deal come up, I'm pre-approved for that, renewing my lines of credit. So those are all, I actually just had a call earlier with a new lender and we just got approved for another line. So just kind of lining those things up. If it's a slow time, it doesn't mean that you can't get ahead in other areas that will better prepare you for when deals do come your way.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Get all of your housekeeping in order and also find other streams of income. I think that's great. Because I flip homes and then I have rentals, but I'm also a real estate broker. And I just feel like that helps me diversify in a market that who knows, what's happening. So that's great advice. Thank you. Julie, tell us about the investment that you are, seeking to make this year and also how you're positioning your company for next year.
Right. So, you know, I'm in the multifamily space. I really like that niche. And I believe, like, since I'm at a different point in the journey, and I like that, you know, I'm at the beginning compared to so many of you. And what's nice about that is, or the importance I see, is really zeroing in on what it is that you want and then building out from there. And I don't know if that's counterintuitive for anyone else, but I get shiny object syndrome. And so it's taken a lot. And I just put the blinders on and said, okay, you're only going into multifamily right now, girl. And then you can go into, you know, retail and everything else. So we're looking at a variety of opportunities and plays between joint venturing and larger. Ultimately, you know, we would like something 200 units and greater than that, because that makes sense. But it's exciting to see where we're going and to get capital lined up. And I think right now that's the most important piece, because the deals will come. And as credit lines dry up over the coming year, and we see a shift in that, it's going to be more important to have all of our capital lined up, private equity, right? So that we can go in there and we can pick up, you know, assets. And again, I think the most beautiful thing about that is just being able to, some people will call it ethical opportunity, but it's just that opportunity to go in there and to see where are the units, you know, what operators are suffering, because we've had a really great run for a lot of years. And although I come from the single family space, you know, it's a similar cycle. And this seems no different than, you know, the writing on the wall of 2008, except I'm wondering what that looks like for multifamily this year. Maybe single family is going to be a little more solid, but multifamily is going to get a little bit hit a little harder since it was so sexy for so long.
No, I love that. And I just feel like there's like an overarching theme of position yourself to take on whatever opportunities are going to come your way in the next few months.
That's
Thank
right.
you, Jay. Thank you. Tarl, a lot has happened. You know, Tarl just had a baby, you guys, this year. So yay, that's so positive and uplifting. But if you can tell us a little bit about how your business pivoted, and also, you know, just again, to go back to events, Tal hosts one of the largest in-person conferences that I have ever been to, like 1,000 attendees, speakers, like nationally acclaimed speakers, 60 to 100 booths. And this year he was somehow able to do all that virtually. And he pulled off a stunning event. And I was fortunate enough to be a speaker. And I can tell you, just from a speaker standpoint, like his team worked it magically. And I'm just so proud of this man. Alex Shower's here, Nate is here, like the whole team just brought it. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, Alex did all the work, so that was great. But actually, in reality, no, I can tell you right now, this year sucked, like on a events business side. Like if you actually, there's a lot of businesses and companies out there that are getting destroyed because of all the bullshit out there. But in reality, anyways, for us, you know, if you go through the emotional challenges of real estate investing, it kind of makes you stronger in other parts of other businesses, because you're like, oh, whatever. I've had entire houses burned to the ground and stuff. So what's the stress of having an events company? But truth being told, right, it was kind of a mind blank where you're sitting there going like, all right, I'm obligated to hundreds of thousands of dollars contractually to running this in-person conference that is supposed to be the easiest one we do, because we've been doing it for years and we got it down this year, and all our systems are good, we're good to go, and then all of a sudden we can't run it legally. And then we go, well, okay, well, this is supposed to be July 10th, 11th, 12th when we were running it. And this is now early April or something. And my team and I are like, well, there's no way this BS is going to continue on to August. Like, so we moved the conference to August, and we just put our money down on that one, and contractually obligated ourselves to more stuff. And then by May, we're like, crap. It's like, and what do we do? Do we cancel? Do we not? And what it came down to is, I think investing has definitely helped us with our mentality on our side, which is, it just became a math equation where you go, all right, well, if we cancel the event, how much money were we out, right? And it was close to about $100,000 that we'd have to write a check for if we canceled it based on obligations that we had contractually already. And if we don't cancel it, then we have to go do a shitty virtual conference, which nobody wants to go to. So what do you do, right? And so we decided to just put our efforts into it. And luckily, like guys like Nate was really the only person championing in the company to keep pushing forward. And I was and I'll be honest, I was just like, I don't want to deal with any of this. And I think who you surround yourself with on your team is incredibly important. And the culture that you have in your business is incredibly important, because when you're down and other people are up, they can help pull you up with you, with them and so forth too. And I think it's really important to surround yourself by those type of people. Alex, who's on our team too, is here. Guys like them, and Serena and Grace and all the volunteers. Some of you guys volunteered, right? So that's even on this call. Bethany, where I saw her a second ago. We raised 40 grand for charity at the event because of Bethany, so which is cool. But looking back at it, like I don't wish any of what we went through on anybody. But investing made it easier for us to go through one of those challenges. I will tell you, if you guys are ever thinking of starting any kind of like, online events business or in-person events business and that kind of stuff, the financials on it, you got to have a purpose for why you want to be doing it. If you ever go down that path, like does it relate back into your real estate business? Do you have a greater reason for why you want to actually make something like that happen outside of financials? And because when stuff like this happens, it kind of messes you up. I don't know where I'm going with all this, but essentially pivoting for real estate though, and investing, we've always been niched out in single family. And right now, I'm a pretty conservative investor. And despite the volume that we've done, and I'll be honest, back in like April, Nate can attest to this. I'm like, I don't think we should buy anything. Looking back then, I'm, of course, just like other investors, upset we didn't buy anything, right? And the markets continue to go up. But now we're at a point to where if our Seattle market is so hot right now, right, which it is, do we continue to put our eggs in that basket and invest in our area, or do we look elsewhere? So that's where we are right now, is we're putting a lot of effort into trying to decide, do we want to move our investment business so much into other states and other areas, and following the trends, following where people are going. And there's other investors like that out there right now trying to discern where to go, where the next push is going to be. But that all comes back to what your vision is for your business, your strategy, and so forth in it. And you don't have to invest locally. You can invest anywhere. And it's just, do you have the right business systems to be able to run it? And that's where we are, right? It's really opening up our eyes to be able to get out of the Pacific Northwest and invest in other markets, and go where the money is and the appreciation or cash flow is, more so than just because we live in the area.
Right. Love that, Tara.
I don't know. I just rambled. So sorry.
No, you just always have the best advice. Thank you. Okay, next up, I want to bring Steve Rosenberg on. Steve, you said something super interesting. You said you compared COVID to 9/11. Tell people where you were at 9/11, what profession, and some of the similarities you're seeing, within the market back then and now.
Yeah. So when 9/11 happened, I was an airline pilot. I still am an airline pilot, actually, but I had this, in my opinion, I'll say I had the best job in the world. I had the most safest and the most secure job that I thought anyone could ever have. I became a major airline pilot. I was flying an international company. And I loved what I did. I didn't want to do anything else in the world. And I thought that nothing could ever touch me. I'm into a big union, big airline, all this stuff. And that was September 10th. And then we all know what happened September 11th. And then September 13th, I got my furlough notice. And the safe, secure job that I thought I had basically was evaporating in front of me. And it really, it's very humbling, I'll say, that when you realize that within 72 hours, essentially, of this happening, that you're just a number and you are cast aside and you are a very small cog in a very big wheel. And it really made me realize how insignificant I was. And even though, I'd studied my whole life to be a pilot and that's all I ever wanted to do, I was just a rounding error in a very big company. And so that was kind of the wake up call that there is no such thing as a safe, secure job. And, at the time, everybody was in shock of, 9/11 and the airline industry. This never happened. So everybody was scrambling all different directions in the airline, in the pilot world. Guys were going over to Asia. They're going to South America. They're going everywhere to fly. I chose to start going into real estate and learning that route. But what's interesting is what we saw then is very similar to what we're seeing now. And, you know, they always say history has a way of repeating itself. And I think Julie had mentioned something about 2008 with the housing recession. You know, I started after 9/11 in real estate. So I've been doing it, you know, a little while, not as much as Enrique, who's probably been doing it for about 80 years, but I've been doing it for a while. But what I realized is that, and what I have been taught or trained is that real estate goes in cycles, and it's normally about a 7-year cycle. And so if I look back at my history of being in real estate, you had 2001, and then it dipped, and then it started going up, and then it went, you know, everyone knows it went through the roof. 2008, it's about 7 years. Then it slammed again. And what a lot of people forget is in 2014 is when the oil prices were about $150 a barrel. And then that was not as, you know, national, some micro in some areas, but it did affect real estate. And then we're about 7 years later again, 6 years, and it's happening again. So we could say it's systemic. We could say it's natural causes. We can say whatever it is. But when you go back and you actually start looking at historical data, it's very similar. And so what I have learned is that, you know, there's always either a good time to buy or a good time to sell. It just depends on how you're positioned in this. And I think that what we're going to see is we're going to see real estate kind of correcting itself, just like it did after 9/11 and 2008. And the people that have a good business model will be able to sustain. And the ones that maybe over leveraged and overextended themselves and don't really have a good model, they don't have structure, they don't know what they're doing, they're not running it like a business, I think we'll see them get corrected. And then there'll be people like me and other people that are waiting, and we'll be able to purchase some of these properties. So I think it's you know, it's a pendulum that just keeps swinging, and it's like the water, it never stays the same. But I think that a lot of people are under an illusion that it's going to stay the same and it's going to keep going up. I don't think it's going to. I think, like everything, you know, some of it may be micro, but I do believe that it will right itself. And depending on what side of the coin you're on, you may be able to benefit from it, or you may be a victim of it, depending on your business model. But, you know, in the airline industry, I can tell you, as you know, anyone that's in the world of working for someone, and I still am an airline pilot. I love what I do. I'm never going to quit being an airline pilot. I don't need the job anymore because I have real estate, but I also realize at any point it can be taken away from me. But those same people that I was friends with during 9/11 that I worked with, that I still work with today, that they didn't take any action and they didn't do anything, they're just as worried today about what could happen if they lose their job as they were in 2000 and 2001. And so a lot of people ask me, they'll say, like, what has changed between now and then? Like, what is different for you? And to me, it's just 20 years of trial and error, making a lot of mistakes, just like everyone on here, but it's 20 years of action. And I think that we're going to see a lot of very, very strong similarities once the dams open up. I think we're going to see it.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. That's such a, you know, good, insightful comparison to have, not knowing what the real estate market or what the market was doing back during 9/11. Because people tend to forget.
So you think that you said the dam's going to open up? You think there's going to be a bunch of properties coming on the market? Is that what you just said, Steve?
I think so. I think within the next 12 to 18 months, I think we're going to see some corrections, because right now I think everything's being artificially propped up because, you know, you got all these moratoriums and you got all this help. And I think once this subsides and the media kind of lets it go and everyone's kind of left hanging, holding on, I think we're going to, I'm already seeing a lot of people that are, you know, they're starting to go back to the management company saying, hey, do you know anyone that wants to buy my house? Because, well, I'll give you an example. I had a tenant, and this is in Texas, which is very pro landlord. You know, I had a tenant in my property for 6 months that we couldn't get out. And the only way we got him out was we did a cash for keys. And that's a pro landlord state. You know, there's other states that people that, let's say they're overextended or they have the second or maybe a third property, and they can't afford to carry the note forever. And I think at some point banks are going to start calling notes due. And I think we're going to see, it may not be as cataclysmic as 2008, but I do think we're going to see it right sizing.
Yeah, actually, Sean and I are in a similar situation. Sean, tell us, you know, you wanted to basically position yourself well to take on opportunities in 2021. Can you tell us a little bit about how you did it, what you did, and what opportunities are you seeking?
You talking about cash for keys?
And that.
For a little context, Leica has a handful of my Seattle residential properties listed as we speak because I'm divesting out of Washington, pretty much out of residential. I figured rates are where they're at, inventory's where it's at. I mean, arguably at an all-time high. And if I can sell, like, what are we selling to? 2 VA buyers who are putting 0% down at sub 3% debt, and they're paying, triple of what I bought these properties for 3, 4, 5 years ago. That gives me a lot of equity to go play with next year when I can turn around and buy, higher quality buildings and better cash flowing markets at 50 to 70 cents on the dollar. So, when I mentioned earlier, maybe the best opportunity that we've seen in 10 years, that's what I mean. It's like looking at ways to optimize our portfolio. And I think, anyone with a handful of residential properties right now is probably sitting on a lot of equity. If you haven't looked at that in a minute, it's worth thinking about and saying, is it working as hard for you as it could be? I know we were guilty of having, $500,000 sitting in a California home earning like a 1% return on all that capital. And so that may have made sense all those years ago, but it also created a stepping stone for us to be able to scale to a whole nother level without having to go out and, hire tons and tons of people. And it's like a, kind of a baby little family office, but, we're going to have 7 figures of additional liquidity to go play with from just selling a couple of units. And then if you lever that up with things like seller financing, which I'm focused a lot on right now, inviting friends and family and colleagues to come into some of these partners, like we can really stretch, a dime into a dollar and end up with, assets that we may hold on for, a generation. This is the stuff that can retire people in 1 or 2 deals as you're, taken down 7-figure projects where you can add 30, 40% value by signing a few leases, by tightening up expenses. It's like all the stuff that you guys know and you've heard on many a podcast, but those fundamentals apply now maybe more than ever. So talk about rambling. I don't know, that a lot of that is hot for me right now and top of mind. And I had a tenant in Washington who wasn't paying, and one of the few ways that you could, work around the eviction moratorium was to sell the property. So I thought, what, never been a better time.
Right.
So, I'm in a way, like as frustrating as this year has been, it gave us all the time to like slow down, step back, and kind of be more thoughtful about what we're doing, where we're doing it, and who we're doing it with. And that's going to be different for everybody. But as I thought about that, there was really some time to be strategic and a little bit more methodical with what I was pursuing. And again, like, you can do one great deal in whether it's an apartment building or a shopping center or an office building. And if it goes right, it can go really right. But if it goes really wrong, it can too. So, really making sure you understand a market, understand some of the vacancy, absorption, and you're aligning yourself with people who've done it, who've had a good track record is something that I would recommend to everyone. I'm doing it. I'm diversifying too. So I'm starting to more passively invest into other people's deals. I'm doing self-storage right now. I'm doing some mobile home parks. I'm, invested in a $30 million apartment building, and I like seeing how other, syndicators are running their portfolio. And I think there's so much to be learned from people. And, I'm thoughtful about making sure I'm, one of the dumbest, brokest guys in the room, which is not a hard thing, as long as you're going to the right rooms. But yeah, some pretty unique opportunities ahead. So with all that kind of chaos, I think there's some really, really special times ahead too, if we know how to get set up for success.
Yeah, and it's so important to go find a mentor, especially now. And just go and look at what they're doing in their business and just follow along. Thank you, Sean. So we have a couple more questions and then we'll do Q&A. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Our speakers would love to help answer them. So Ellis, there's a lot of people over here that invest passively, and you did that when you first started investing in real estate, but then you went from being a passive investor to an active investor this year. What kind of made you make that switch?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our first deal we did a passive was a duplex actually, and then our first syndication we invested both passively, and then we were on the GP side as well. I think the reason we're active though is, I mean, one, I like the control. I like the ability to be able to go in there and figure out the value on our own. You know, we've invested passively twice now, and I like the ability to actually go and be the decision maker on the project. And so that's not for everyone, but it definitely is for us, for me and my wife. But also we see real estate as an incredible vehicle to accomplish our mission of impacting lives, transforming lives. And so that's one of the reasons why we left full-time vocational ministry and got into real estate, was just we see it as another, you know, as a different vehicle to be able to live out the mission that we feel called to. So, you know, I mean, it's been really interesting kind of sitting here listening to everyone's take. I don't know, you know, people who are not on the panel and just listening. I just find it so insightful to listen to these top players, like the chess moves that everyone has made in 2020. It seems like it's been less action oriented and more up here. And I think that's a huge part of the game. And I've learned a ton listening to this panel already. So I do think that's really interesting because, you know, as I'm been in this game, you know, someone just said it only takes one or two deals to change your life. And so being at something like this and thinking about using 2020, using these relationships to get set up to go make bigger moves in 2021, that's been our play. Since we've been on this Zoom call, I've already made 2 strategic partners to go and do some bigger deals next year. So I think that's been my strategy in 2020. We have not necessarily taken down as many deals as I thought we would, but we have insulated our business by putting more relationships around it. And that, I think, is going to be a huge game changer for us moving forward.
That is huge. And you're absolutely right. You know, there's a new way of even doing business this year is like, I would go to an architect's office, drive 45 minutes to sit down and come up with a floor plan. And now we can just share our screen and do it on Zoom. And that just gives you back a ton of time. And now what you do with that time is plan your next strategic move, or, you know, focus on your books, or just mundane tasks that you have to put away because you have to be in in-person meetings. So that is great advice, Ellis. So I have one last question for Liz. Liz, what do you see for yourself, and what opportunities do you see happening in 2021?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of opportunities everywhere, or for our own business, I guess at both. Yeah, I mean, this has been an interesting year for us too. My husband and I have been investing for about 15 years. So we actually lived through the last recession. And this has been an interesting, we were like holding our own the last time. We were just hoping we didn't lose any properties and all those sort of things. This time around, same thing. I mean, it was very like, wow, what's going on here? What do we do? We mostly have multifamilies, small and then to large in 4 different states. So we were like, okay, what's going to happen here? How do we hold our own? And then July, we closed on our largest asset to date in North Carolina. And I don't think we would have been able to do that if we didn't set up our team properly out of state and really cultivate a team over the years. So I'll just say, as we move forward, I'm thinking more about not so much the deal or the property, but like the team, the people. And that's true for an active investor or a passive investor. If you're on this call and you're passively investing with others, you know, obviously you want to vet the deal. You want to make sure it's a project that you want to invest in, obviously, and it has all the right fundamentals, of course. But it's also the people, right? The people can make or break any project. So for me, as we look forward for not just our investing business, I was still doing a lot of our investor relations this year. So we build our business through working with others, passive investors, and I was heading that up. And I was really getting pulled more into our investor business and our movement. And that was really where my heart is. So I said, okay. And then we ended up hiring someone to help us with that, which was a great step. So for me, this has been the team of the year of the team, if you will. And I think as we move forward, or if you think about all of your businesses this year or next year, not just like, where do I want to invest, what markets to invest, but like, who do I want to invest with, and how do I build a team with people who we have the same values, but we bring different things to the table. I just think that's going to be critical. I I also would say don't get so wrapped up in the content, but think about like the community. What communities are you part of so that you can grow with others and give and get and just kind of collaborate. I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, as we look forward, multifamily is our focus. We're going to continue to do that, but we've actually not done a ton of vacation rentals. So my husband and I got a HELOC on our home, and which I know is a great strategy. And so we're going to be strategic on like buying a vacation rental and getting into Airbnb for the first time. Although, we have a place in the Poconos, which is in Pennsylvania, that we know very well. And we're like, I'm now learning a new market and building a network there. I don't know anyone there. So, while we're building our business in certain areas, you still have to use the same fundamentals when you move into a new area for all of us, even though we've been doing this for quite some time. So building relationships, building teams, that's kind of what I'm focused on, and buying our kind of like our first vacation rental, if you will, while we're still building our multifamily business. So that's what we're up to.
You said you were getting a HELOC on your personal residence. Can you tell us a little bit about the strategy?
Yeah, so we bought a, not to get into a long story, but we bought a foreclosure in a cute little community here in PA, and it was a foreclosure on the MLS, but it was bank owned. We made a lowball offer, never got it accepted. Ended up coming back to it, making the right offer that making the offer that we really wanted in terms of the house. Got it under contract, renovated it, and we were able to use our own contractors, what have you, keep costs down. And then get, a year, 2 years later, we're like, hold on, I think, let's get this appraised. And what we owed on it versus what it appraised for, right? There's room in your home, if you will. It's actually one of the greatest ways you can, using your own equity. And so we went to a couple different banks. I don't know about the folks on this call, but if you're in real estate and you don't have a W-2, neither my husband and I have a W-2, sometimes, they have to kind of like really study your tax returns, because they're like, where are you making money? And, so a couple of the banks that we work with, thankfully, we have good relationships with a couple of community banks. I'm like, okay, we got it. So we got the HELOC, and really it's you're basically borrowing against your home in the home equity line of credit, really. And it's about, I think we had about 80%, loan to value on our home. And you don't pay any interest if you're not using it, which is great, right? That's always a nice thing. I know we've borrowed a lot of money over the years from different people, and sometimes you borrow money and you got to start paying interest. It doesn't matter if you're using it or not. So so that's how we're just like, let's do something where we're into large projects, but let's do something for like generational wealth as we build our, where we're leaving things to our kids and stuff. So we own a lot of property with other people. That's just been our strategy over the years. So we're just like, okay, how about Matt and Liz Fairclough? Just what can we just own solely? There's a few that we own, but a lot of our projects are with other people.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, so a couple questions here, and then we'll break into breakout rooms for some more intimate networking. Okay, so one question for Shreyas, your perspective on potential correction coming to single family?
Oh yeah, can I deflect that one to Nee?
Sure.
That's a hard question. I don't have a confident answer, right? I mean, there's you look at different things that affect supply and demand, right? I mean, supply is probably going to go up once the COVID shutdowns go away, and once we have a vaccine, and once we have some foreclosures. But I don't think that it's going to be a big hit to us. I mean, out of the last 5 recessions or crashes, real estate was only the cause of one of them, and for the most part, real estate kind of pulled the economy back out of most of the recession. So I think the government is going to be very incentivized to not let something major happen to our housing market again, and they've already done that. The other side of it too is, I think, looking back at the median age to buy a property, it's the millennials, right? Like basically 33 years of age. And so if you look back 33 years ago, over the next 5 years, the number of millennials the number of people approaching 33 years of age from the birth rate is increasing for the next 5 years. So we're going to start seeing higher demand as well. And I think overall, the overall housing market has much more equity now than before. And so foreclosures aren't going to be as bad as before. But it's just kind of like what tugs more. I mean, this election is still unclear what's going to happen over the next year in terms of, what kind of policies are going to come into place. But I personally don't believe that there's going to be a huge crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also think a lot of it will be market dependent too. I think some markets are better protected than others.
Awesome.
Can I just add something to that too? I think that's a great piece of advice there. I think a lot of people, especially as investors, you're looking for that next big bubble or something to burst to get this great deal. And I would just remind people, so is everyone else in the world, and there's tons of capital that's been sitting on the sidelines waiting for something like this. And so unless you already have like good systems in place and good relationships in the market, as Liz have talked about, like even if there are opportunities like that out there, if you have not been prepared for that and you don't have the system in place to find those deals, don't expect like just because there's this great opportunity all of a sudden that it's going to fall in your lap. And so, I always just want to, I think that's worth noting too, that, along with good deals comes good systems, good relationships. And so just because, the market presents that doesn't mean you're going to be able to find that.
No, great advice. I have one question that I can't remember who asked, but it's a great question. And this is for any of my speakers. If you're investing out of state, what markets are you investing in? And this is solely for residential, just, to narrow it down. So Steve, we can start with you.
If they're asking what market should they invest in,
yes.
I'm very, very cautious to answer that. To give a state or an area, because it really depends on their goals and their strategy. What's good for one person is bad for someone else. So, they've got to figure out what their end result they want to have, and then they figure out what market will supply that for them. So if for example, I don't really need the cash flow in a property, I would rather go for a negative geared property and take the high appreciation rate. But if I gave that advice to someone else that is thinking they need the cash flow to live, that could be very bad advice. So I think it really depends. A lot of people are looking for that advice. They're looking for that silver bullet or golden nugget without having I'm not going to say they're lazy, but I think they have to realize that they're the CEO of their business. Like, it's their job to know where they're going and what their destination is. Then they can ask directions once they know where they're going. It's kind of like someone getting on the freeway and just stopping and asking for directions. And when first question you're going to ask them is, where are you going? And if they say, I don't know where I'm going, then how can someone give you directions? So, there's great markets everywhere. I think every place has great markets depending on what you're looking for. So here's I'm not going to answer it.
Here's my advice. First, figure out where you're going. And when you know where you're going, call Steve Rosenberg.
Yeah, I just think it's important to really, I've been steered wrong before personally, because I used to ask the people selling the properties, is this a good deal? And what do they say? It's a great deal. You should buy it. So I buy it. And then all of a sudden it was a great deal. It's just a great deal for them to sell it, not necessarily for me to buy it. So
you to buy it. Oh man. Yeah. I come across a lot of people like that. Okay. We'll end with this one last question. What will retail strip malls look like as we reopen the economy? Will it go away or go back to the way it was, or new opportunities? I think Sean, if you want to take this.
Definitely not going to look like it used to. It already wasn't, right? And what happened just accelerated it like another 5 years. So I would think a lot more about service centric. What is something that's going to want to get you out of the house that you couldn't otherwise get on Amazon? So your nails, your hair, your dog groomers, gyms are a whole nother can of worms. Like restaurants, I think a lot more about delivery now. So there's certainly going to be demand for certain things, but I think there's going to be a lot less people who need traditional retailers. So I'm thinking a lot now about adaptive reuse and just what's going to make sense for, retailer 2.0 type of thing. But a lot of people were spooked. So that I think that's what's going to create a big opportunity, and you're going to see stuff that's just antiquated and doesn't make sense anymore. And, Amazon moving into a mall to take that as a fulfillment center. So, I look very closely at who's going to be the tenant base. And if we've got, The deal I'm in escrow to buy now is 60% vacant. Why? Because, there's some fundamentally stupid stuff that was done, but, the property still makes sense for a certain base of tenants. I got to throw in 2 cents on the last question too, because at a macro level, like I would be looking for a landlord friendly state, and I'd be looking for growth in the path of progress, jobs. There's some things that are, beyond just whatever town or state you're looking in, that would make sense in almost every circumstance.
Yep. No, I love that. This has just been such a good session, and I've learned a lot. So thank you all the speakers for being here. Before we head into breakout rooms, we're gonna have 10 rooms of like 5 to 6 people. So if you want to leave, you can leave now, because then when we create the breakout rooms, we have a solid number of people in each room. But also just before you head out, like I mentioned before, the Seattle and the greater Seattle market has just been such a close-knit family. And we have now, one of the key players has started like a little charity auction type thing. And I want to call on Mark Canton to tell us all about it. And even if you're not in the Seattle market, you are free to donate because it's for a great cause. So Mark, I don't know if you're still here, but okay,
yeah,
there you are. Awesome, Mark. If you can take the stage for a second and tell us about this charity and who you're raising money for, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me here. So it's towards the end of the year and we're all reflecting on our businesses. And I was meeting with a few pretty big players in our market here in Seattle. And I started telling them, I really feel like we should give back this year. And they're saying, well, what do you have in mind? And I said, well, look at us. These other people, they're far bigger than I am, and they have 7-figure incomes. And I said, the whole world's on fire and we're hurting in real estate, right? There's eviction moratorium, there's turnover, but it's nothing, we're not hurting nearly as bad as the rest of the world. So what do you guys say? So then I said, I'd be willing, I'll match up to $5,000. And I got a few other people to say the same. If I had to guess right now, I think there's about $25,000 committed to match. And so we are facilitating this fundraiser. It's going to be administered through the WARI Facebook page, which is, I know a lot of you are connected with it. If you're not, it's Washington Real Estate Investing. And the money is going to go to Seattle-based 501c3 charities that are focused on housing issues and homelessness. We're finalizing those charities, but the odds are that the largest one's going to be Mary's Place. No big surprise there. So we've started to make some noise on that page about that and drum up some excitement. Some other things that are going to go on is they're going to raffle off some cool stuff that's been donated. Actually, really cool stuff. I can't talk about too much of it because it's not totally committed. But who here was jealous of a certain someone who took a plane ride recently? Right? Yeah, I see her. She was looking all nervous. So Ryan Gibson, I twisted his arm. He's a good friend of mine. He was willing to donate a plane ride to look at projects. So you could be just like our favorite hostess here. And the most important thing is it's all for a good cause, So I would say for announcements, where do I go? How do I donate? All of that will be revealed over the next few business days on the WARI, Washington Real Estate Investing Facebook page. Yeah.
Mark, can you post a link to the page, and also how do people connect with you? Because not everybody here is from Seattle and
sure,
not have access to the page.
Sure. Yes. I put my LinkedIn on there, but I will put the Facebook page as well as my personal Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Always happy to donate to a good cause. Okay. So now for the most exciting part of the event, our breakout room sessions. We have a total of 73 participants, and we're going to be in 10 rooms. We're going to open up the room, and this is your time to really connect with people, do some intimate networking, and take their information down, follow up with them, and create a much deeper, meaningful connection.